All right, let's get started. Seems to be kind of pretty lively in here. Must be game week. Maryland, which is hopefully as exciting for y'all as it is for us. We're pretty eager to get this thing going here for the next few days to get our preparation done and head into what should be a very electric weekend here in Morgantown. Seems like forever since we've had the Terps over here. We've been over in Maryland the last couple of years, but we've played over there 3 times and over here once. So since I've been here, so I'm excited about them coming over, and our team's excited about them coming over, and I know our fan base is excited about Maryland coming over. One of the few regional rivals that we have on the schedule. I don't think it's a mistake that this game sold out pretty quick. I know it means a lot to our fan base and it means a lot to WVU, and I know is the same for their program as well. So it's going to be fun. Saturday's going to be fun. I know we're going to have an electric crowd, and it's going to be a live atmosphere. Every seat will be taken, which is going to be something that would probably fire them up as well. I know we're going to be pretty excited about this happening. So anyway, it's a good Maryland team is coming. Very well coached. Coach Etzel's been there for as long as I've been here. Very, very well coached. They got lots of depth. They're sound in what they do on all 3 sides. They've been doing the same thing offensively for a while now with Coach Loxley. Coach Etzel's got his hand in what's going on defensively. He's a defensive guy. So there's some similarities, although the coordinator has changed and their scheme is a little different. It's more simple, so I know it makes sense to them because they're never out of position. They're in position to make plays each and every time that they snap the ball. So and then special teams is very sound as well. We know we got a challenge with that. I'll start with them, the special teams aspect of it. Got another battle of 2 pretty good kickers. Hopefully we win this one just like we did the last one. But Brad Craddock coming over, Luke Rosa award winner. Was an All-American. We feel like we got a pretty good kicker in Josh, but he's a weapon for him. And he's got a strong leg and does some good things for him. And then the return game with Likely is something that I made reference to last week that we got to do a great job of covering kicks. It's going to be a challenge, but we better get used to it because there's a lot of good returners in the Big 12. But they're fantastic at it. So it looks like they've settled on the quarterback with Caleb Rowe. Came in, threw for a bunch of yards. They've been moving the ball offensively now, averaging almost 500 yards a game and putting up some points. So having some familiarity with what they're doing with the quarterback and having settled on Rowe, I think it's given them a little bit of a comfort level there. It starts up front for them. They're big, they're physical. Protect the quarterback as good as anybody. They got 3 or 4 backs that they don't mind handing the ball to as well. They're very multiple. The one thing with the new guy is they don't run the quarterback as much with him as they did the guy that they've had the last couple of years, and the Hills kid as well. So, they're going to put the ball in other people's hands, which is why they're throwing the ball a lot more. Defensively, a lot of the same bodies, same names that I'm familiar with that I've seen. Starts with their front. They get after the quarterback as good as anybody. They got great rush guys. Their interior D linemen are big, thick people that get to the quarterback as well. Active linebackers with a secondary that can cover. The 2 best corners we've seen to date with Likely and Davis. Veteran guys that have played a lot. I'm sure they're going to get in our young kids' face and challenge them. And pretty fired up to see how our young guys respond to that because I expect them to play against anybody. But overall, no, it's going to be a test. Should be a very, very, very live, exciting atmosphere in Morgantown. Got the West Virginia University Hall of Fame as well. Congratulations to Coach Bowden and Amos Zaraway and Ken Herrick for coming back to go into the Hall of Fame. I know that's going to mean a lot to them and the program as well. So can't tell you how excited we are for the upcoming game. So other than that, open it up to some questions.
Dan, if you go back to your quarterback situation when you went to Maryland 2 years ago and you were kind of hamstrung with some things, if you care to revisit that, situation you were in, but kind of bookend it with the progress you've made there now and just how much better off to your liking.
Yeah, I've reminded our team of what happened 2 years ago. It's not something I can hide from or run from. It's the worst defeat that I've ever taken, but we weren't in a good place. We played a couple of different quarterbacks in that game and played one with a tore pec, which is hard to throw the ball with a tore pec. Didn't know about it. But anyway, we turned the ball over 6 times. They outplayed us. They strained harder. Their effort was better. Everything that could have went wrong went wrong. It motivated us, and I think we improved a whole bunch going into it a year later. Being able to win at Maryland, fixing a lot of those problems. There were snap issues. There was quarterback problems. Clint played really good against them last year. Offensively, we played really good against them last year. We played a lot faster. We picked up the tempo. We took care of the ball. We made plays downfield. We ran the ball effectively. And I think we're every bit as good right now as we were then.
How'd you guys respond on Sunday, coming back off a couple of days off?
Oh, they're energetic. I think they were bored for potentially 2 weeks. So, they were good to get back. We had a pretty high-spirited, energetic practice on Sunday night under the lights, and I anticipate that being the same here today and tomorrow.
I know you mentioned you got a game plan last week during a bye week. Did they do anything different against South Florida to alter your game plan on one?
No, not much. It looked to me like it was the same stuff on all 3 sides. So, other than the fact that, like I mentioned with Caleb Rowe, they're probably going to throw the ball a little bit more. They don't run him as much. He's had 2 season-ending knee surgeries, so he's scrambled around a little bit and got a first down or 2. But they're not going to do just a ton of zone read with them or quarterback draws or any of that they did with Hills and they did with the guy last year.
Barber 100% yet, or ready to go?
Yeah, and again, we talked about this. He was pretty close to being good to go 2 weeks ago, and Jared being an old guy like me, Coach Barber, we obviously want to be careful with him. When we have opportunities to be careful with him, then we want to be able to be careful with him. But he played a lot last week, so he's good to go.
You mentioned patience 2 weeks ago against Liberty. Is that same deal with the way Etzel plays defense?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to get into it and see. There's always going to be that little guessing game going into a game that you don't really know what their plan is going to be until you get into it. But they're what they've shown is they're going to play off like Liberty did on normal downs, and then they're going to get after you a little bit on critical downs. So, which was more along the lines of what Georgia Southern did for the entire game. So. We'll have to see if they're going to change that in one direction or the other, but we got to anticipate both. And, I hope we can get to a point where we're good enough to be able to attack both of them, whether we have to be patient and put the ball in play where we need to, but then be able to handle pressure and defeat man coverage when they're doing that, which is what they've shown on critical downs.
Man, you had some tough games, Big 12 games. Interesting comments you made about being the worst Maryland game a couple years ago, being the worst defeat that you had. What was it? Just the combination of so many things?
Yeah, we lost 37-0. Turned the ball over 6 times. Didn't play very good. The weather was bad. I kidded around that said it poured every time we had the ball, and it didn't pour when they had the ball. It's just what it felt like, obviously. But they did. They just played much better than we did.
Danny, you mentioned coverage on special teams. You had the directional kick as well to pin him in the corner.
Yeah, probably just kick it sideways, right out of bounds. You know, you can't play like that. I'm not going to tell you what our plan is, but you can't play scared. You can't play the game of football scared like that. So I give him all the credit and respect in the world, and he's as good as I've seen. But we're going to face some pretty good ones all year long. So it's a big week for Nick. You know, he's got to place the ball where we want him to place the ball, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of the front 7 guys to be able to get off of blocks, which they do as good a job of holding people at the line of scrimmage than I've seen, which creates space. I've said this a lot. You want to fix a punt returner, you give them time to catch the punt. That's step one. So we've got to get downfield and be able to be in position to make plays when we can.
You made a comment after last year's Maryland game about Josh Lambert, and how you two really up in that one hadn't talked too much. I was wondering over the past year.
You know that was a joke, right?
It was in jest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a joke. I thought everybody got the joke, but sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering, I guess since then, and since he's kind of become since he's kind of become someone who's won a couple games for you guys on the last sentence, even though that comment wasn't just, has your relationship, kind of changed at all, kind of.
Absolutely not. I don't mess with him one bit. Now that part of it's true.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, we got a guy in Joe DeForest that has coached more than one Lou Groza award winner. So we got a guy that knows how to handle kickers on a day-to-day aspect of things. I'm not going to meddle with that, And all joking aside, there's a psychological aspect to kickers and punters and even deep snappers and holders to a lesser degree that I don't know what I'm talking about. So it's in everybody's best interest to leave them alone. I know they're handled. I got a guy that knows how to handle them, and we're just going to leave it at that.
Dana, I know on the call yesterday you mentioned that Texas Tech's win over Arkansas was good for the league. It's obviously not the first thing on your mind, but another Power 5 opponent. Does this represent another potential kind of statement game or just another step for the Big 12, kind of making its case as a conference?
It certainly doesn't hurt. We're gonna think of West Virginia first, and try to get to 3-0 in non-conference, which was our first goal of the season with our team. That's first and foremost. We've talked scheduling in here, and we're going to continue to schedule Power 5 opponents. And when you have them on your schedule, you need to do everything you can do to win those. I know that this game means a lot based on history, because we don't. That's the one thing with the Big 12. We don't have a huge history with a lot of these teams, which is why starting with Oliver and wholeheartedly supported by Shane is to continue to try to get regional opponents that we can play in the non-conference that means something. So I think that trumps what they're saying in Dallas at the Big 12 office right now. I guarantee at the Big 12 office they're talking about all games against Power 5 being able to state our case for being as good a conference as there is out there.
And what do you tell your young wide receivers that obviously with experienced good players going against a cornerback, they're going to try to intimidate them, and I'm sure there'll be some trash talking and the like. So.
Yeah. Get used to it. There's a lot of good corners out there. There's a lot of good corners in the Big 12. You a guy that is a pretender, or you a guy that is a real guy. This is a pretty good opportunity to show that you're a real guy, whoever it is. And we got more than just Javon and Shelton. The likes of Gary Jennings has practiced his tail off and getting better every day. Karan White is practicing his tail off and getting better every day. Got more than just those two young guys. We've got other guys, and we're going to continue to add to that as well.
You look at them and say, draw a circle around their campus, and they can get their whole roster within 5 minutes of their campus. There's a lot of talent.
Pretty fertile recruiting grounds.
Yeah.
That we try to dabble in a little bit as well. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
Yes.
And that's important to us.
Yeah, you mentioned your tempo last year against them was really good. Is part of picking and choosing when to go fast, or how much of it is that affects the other team? Not necessarily getting the rhythm, but maybe they're not comfortable defending tempo.
Well, with playing fast, and we were successful with it last year because we got first downs. If you get first downs, you can keep pressing the pedal down. You keep going and going and going and going. So you got to execute in order to do that. And if you go back and look at the two offensive performances the last 2 years, we had zero success 2 years ago, and we went really slow because we were bad. Last year we were on the verge of getting pretty good, and we had success, which allows you to continue to go fast.
So far,
Don't hurry up and screw it up.
Right. So far this season, have you had enough snaps or enough shifting gears, I guess, to have a handle on where you
Oh
are?
yeah, we're going to continue to get better at it.
And is the importance of Saturday's game magnified even more based on the gauntlet you got coming up in October?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor.
Who? I know it's ahead, but we're not worried about it. What are you going to do about it? We're going to focus on this one, and it's our goal to get a 3-0. We haven't even talked about the Big 12 yet, so it's our goal to get to 3-0. We're giving everything that we got to win this game, and after that, we'll figure out who's next on the schedule.
You talked about this series. It's going to take a break for a while. Would you like to
Only
see
a couple years, though, right?
4?
Is it 4 years?
Yeah. Would you like to see long term? Would you like to see it continue, or let the other Penn State, Virginia Tech?
Yeah, we got to spread it around, and I think they're going to want to spread it around as well. So, having a couple of games every other couple of years or whatever, I think is probably about right. It doesn't need to disappear. I know that it means too much to everybody. But where are you going to stick it? I mean, we just penciled in or pinned in a 4-game schedule with Pitt in the 21, 22, 23, 24, something like that. So,
22, 25.
yeah, I mean, scheduling is hard. But I definitely support it and know it needs to continue in some form or fashion.
Their offensive line hasn't allowed a sack yet this season. Do you think that's due to maybe them being talented or the competition they played, and how do you kind of plan to get through them?
Well, I don't. I think they've played good teams. They've played good teams, so I think they're pretty good up front. They're big. They average around 305, 3 returning starters. So their scheme, they've been doing the same thing for quite some time, and they've coached up the quarterbacks to get the ball out of their hands. So it's going to be a challenge to get there, and we got to figure out a way to get there. That's been something I've been talking about for quite some time, is we need to get to the quarterback. So looking forward to getting out there today and working on it.
You expecting to see only coaches from your team on your sideline?
I thought that was common sense.
And when you're scouting teams, do you notice penalty habits on the other side, and do you draw any meaning from maybe patterns or things that seem to appear in key situations, things like that?
What was the first part of that?
When you're watching other teams scouting, offense, defense, special teams, do you track penalties? Does it mean anything to you?
Penalties?
Because they've had a few critical ones, and they're pretty much spread out on all 3 sides.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. I really don't. We coach our guys and pay attention to our guys. I mean, really hard, and talk about technique and playing smart and don't put your team in a bad situation. We do that with us a lot. I've never done it with the opponent. Is that what you're asking?
Just curious if it means anything to you, like if they've had a couple turnovers called back and big returns.
Not really. I've always taken the approach with referees, you just ignore them. It's always been my approach, and if you obsess over them, you're costing yourself time and costing yourself work. You could probably lose your mind out there on the sidelines more than I tend to. So I try to ignore all that and just play the next play.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you all.